All right, let's dive into this AI stuff, shall we?
Sounds good to me.
It's everywhere you look these days. Not just a buzzword anymore, right?
Definitely not.
We've got a really interesting mix of sources to dig into, excerpts from that new AI guidebook, you know the one, plus some articles on specific tools. So it seems like you're not just looking for a basic understanding here. You're ready to go deep, figure out the nuts and bolts of how AI actually works.
And, even more importantly, how to make it work for you.
Exactly. But honestly, sometimes it feels like you need a decoder ring just to get started with all this AI jargon.
It can definitely feel overwhelming, yeah.
So many models, applications, everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah,
Easy to get lost in the hype.
absolutely. That's why we're here to break it all down.
And one of the, well, maybe the most fundamental concept we need to grasp is this thing called an algorithm.
Right, the algorithm.
Sounds kind of scary, like something out of the Matrix.
Well, it's really not that complicated. The source material actually explains it really well. Like, think about making coffee. You have your input, the water, the coffee grounds. Then you follow a specific set of steps, a process, to get to your delicious output, that cup of coffee, that process, that set of instructions. That's basically an algorithm.
Okay, so it's just a fancy word for a set of instructions.
Pretty much.
But how do we jump from coffee brewing to the kind of AI algorithms that can write poems and compose symphonies? Those are light years apart.
Well, AI algorithms have evolved a lot from those early days of, simple logic-based systems. Now we're in the age of what we call generative AI models like ChatGPT or Claude, trained on massive amounts of data.
Trained. So it's like teaching a dog tricks, but instead of treats, we're feeding AI information.
I like that analogy, but instead of teaching a specific skill, imagine showing someone every single Picasso painting. Not to copy them exactly, but so they develop an understanding of his style, his techniques.
Ah, so the AI is picking up on patterns, not just memorizing facts. But how does it actually process and understand all that information? Is it really thinking like we do?
That's where it gets really interesting. See, AI doesn't truly understand information the way humans do. Instead, it breaks down text, for example, into smaller units, kind of like digital building blocks called tokens.
Tokens. Sounds like something you'd use at an arcade.
Think of them more like Lego bricks of language. The AI learns which bricks tend to go together, what sequences are most likely to follow each other, all based on that huge data set it's been trained on.
So it's not actually getting the meaning, more like super-powered predictive text on our phones, filling in the blanks based on what it's seen before.
You got it. It's all about statistical association probability. The AI has crunched the numbers on a massive scale, so it knows which words and phrases tend to go together based on those patterns it's learned.
Wow. So when I'm asking an AI a question, it's not really pondering the depths of my query. It's more like doing some insane calculation based on all that data it's ingested.
Pretty much. It's easy to get caught up in the human-like responses and forget there's a very sophisticated but ultimately statistical machine behind the curtain.
Okay, so if it's just statistics and probability,
Yeah.
how is it that AI can come up with things that feel so creative and original? Like, I've seen AI write poetry that would make Shakespeare jealous.
That's the generative part of generative AI at play. These models aren't just retrieving and repeating information. They can actually create new and interesting outputs by mixing and matching, riffing on the elements from their training data in novel ways.
So it's like a chef with a pantry full of ingredients. They can use those to whip up something brand new.
Exactly. The AI can take the building blocks of language, music, even images, and create something we've never seen before. However, and this is important, those ingredients for its creations, they all come from the data it was trained on.
So even those original AI creations are still fundamentally rooted in patterns and probabilities derived from existing data. It's not pulling something truly new out of thin air, right?
You got it. And that's why it's so important to understand the limitations of AI, even as we marvel at its capabilities.
Which reminds me, we've got to talk about hallucinations. You know, those moments when AI seems to go completely off the rails.
Right. Hallucinations, a common concern.
It can be a bit unnerving, like, wait, I thought this thing was supposed to be super intelligent, but it just told me that Abraham Lincoln invented the internet.
It's easy to anthropomorphize AI, to think it understands in the same way we do, but it doesn't. Remember, it's all about probabilities. It's making its best guess based on the patterns it's seen in the data, and sometimes, well, those guesses can be wildly inaccurate.
So it's like It's trying to please me with an answer, even if that answer is completely made up.
In a way, yes. It's not intentionally trying to deceive, but it's trying to complete the pattern, provide the most likely output based on its training.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better, knowing it's not deliberately trying to pull the wool over my eyes.
Exactly. But it does highlight why we can't just blindly accept everything AI spits out.
We need to be critical thinkers, double-check its work, especially when something seems off.
Absolutely. Don't leave your critical thinking. It's definitely still early days for Gemini, but it's got potential, especially with its integration with Google's ecosystem, Workspace, Search, even YouTube,
It's like they're baking AI into everything they do now.
which, knowing Google, shouldn't come as a surprise. And then there's Perplexity, the new kid on the block, making waves with its real-time web search capabilities.
Yeah, perplexity is fascinating.
Right.
It's like having a research assistant who can not only answer your questions, but also pull up the latest news, research, anything relevant on the web.
Exactly. It's a great example of how AI can augment our abilities, make us more efficient, more informed.
But it's a lot to keep up with, like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity. It's overwhelming. Where do you even start?
My advice, don't overthink it. Jump in, experiment. Most of these tools have free versions, so you can get a feel for each one, see what clicks with your workflow.
That's a good point. Try before you buy.
Yeah,
But even once you've found your tool of choice, there's still the art of crafting the perfect prompt.
the prompt, yes, it's the key.
Sometimes it feels like trying to talk to a genie in a bottle. You have to be so specific, so deliberate with your wording.
That guidebook you mentioned earlier, it had some really great insights on prompt engineering, breaking down the anatomy of a good prompt, those key elements.
Clarity, context, specificity.o, and the one about constraints. That was a game changer for me.
Right. It's not just about what you want the AI to do, but also what you don't want it to do, setting those boundaries.
And of course, we have to mention the super prompt, which honestly blew my mind a little. A prompt that helps you write better prompts. Genius.
I know. It's like having an AI coach right there in your corner, analyzing your prompts, suggesting improvements.
I'll admit I was skeptical at first. But then I saw it in action, dissecting my prompts, suggesting these subtle tweaks, and bam, the AI started producing exactly what I had in mind.
That's the power of a well-crafted prompt. It unlocks a whole new level of AI's potential.
It's amazing how a few well-chosen words can make all the difference. So we've got all these incredible tools at our disposal. But it begs the question, what does it all mean? What's the takeaway for our listeners who are just diving into this world?
For me, the biggest takeaway is this. AI is no longer this mysterious black box that only a select few can understand. It's a tool. And like any tool, anyone can learn to use it effectively.
I love that. Demystifying AI.
Yeah.
It's not magic, it's accessible.
Exactly. And here's the other thing to remember. AI is not a static thing. It's constantly evolving, changing, improving.
Which is both exciting and a little daunting, right? It's like,
Right.
as soon as you think you've got a handle on it, bam, something new pops up.
That's the beauty of it. So stay curious, stay informed, don't be afraid to experiment.
It's like trying to learn a new language, right?
Yeah.
AI is speaking to us, and
Yeah.
we need to learn how to speak back.
Absolutely. It's all about communication. And the better we understand how AI works, the more effectively we can communicate with it, and the more we can get out of these incredible tools.
Which ultimately brings us to a really profound question, I think. We've been talking about using AI to achieve our goals, to get things done, but what if AI could actually help us redefine those goals in the first place?
Now you're thinking. We're so focused on what we can get AI to do for us, but what about the ways it can challenge our thinking, push us beyond our usual limits?
Right. It's like, what if instead of us trying to control AI, it could actually help us break free from our own assumptions, our own biases even?
That's the really exciting frontier, isn't it? The potential for AI to not just augment our abilities, but to actually expand our understanding of what's possible.
It's almost a little mind-blowing when you think about it. Like, we're on the cusp of this whole new era where the line between human and machine intelligence starts to blur, and who knows what incredible breakthroughs await us on the other side.
It's definitely a time of immense possibility, but it's also a time for careful consideration, for ethical reflection. As we continue to develop and integrate AI into our lives, we need to do so responsibly, thoughtfully, always keeping in mind the potential consequences of our creations.
Absolutely. We can't just let the AI run wild. We need to be mindful of the impact it has on our society, on our values, on what it means to be human in the age of intelligent machines.
Exactly. It's a conversation that we need to be having now, as we shape the future of AI together.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Agreed.
So, to our listeners, we hope this has been an enlightening conversation, a journey into the heart of AI, and that you've come away with a better understanding of not just what AI is, but also what it could be.
And we hope you'll continue to explore this fascinating world with us as we delve into even deeper questions, uncover even more groundbreaking innovations, and unravel the ever-evolving mysteries of artificial intelligence. Until next time.
Keep asking those big questions, my friends.